Hello and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Carl. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe for the latest content. With America's 250th birthday right around the corner, many of us are gearing up for some fantastic 4th of July food. Here to break down the nation's hottest food trends is Bret Thorn. Bret is the senior food and beverage editor for the nation's Restaurant News, the go-to website and magazine for the food service industry, where he spots trends and steers national coverage. He's also the co-host of the weekly podcast Menu Talk. Welcome, Bret Thorn, to the conversation.
I'm so glad to be here, Carl.
Thank you so much for doing this. Let's get started. How has the American palate and our baseline for food taste evolved over the years?
We've gotten a lot more adventuresome. People really want to try new flavors. Although I say that, but they don't want to be totally blown away by something new. They want something familiar and then something added to it. So, 20 years ago, you didn't see buffalo chicken on pizza. You just saw pepperoni and sausage and onions and so on. But now you can put buffalo chicken or Nashville hot chicken or a variety of other proteins and toppings that we wouldn't be used to in the past, but it's on pizza, so we can relate to it. Similarly, you can put something like gochujang, like the Korean barbecue sauce, on burgers, and that's fine because it's on a burger, so we already know about that. Similar flavors with wings and so on. As long as you're starting with something that people can wrap their heads around, you can get a little bit weird with it.
I mean, I do like there's a hot pear pizza it's a hot honey and pear pizza, and that is really good as you're talking about it.
Yeah, there you go. And people like spicier food, but they don't like kill you spicy food. I mean, you have challenges, you have, what's the YouTube video where people eat like spicy tortilla chips and then, they pass out and vomit and stuff. There is that element, but it's not what normal humans eat most of the time. We like food that's a little bit spicy, often with a sweet combination. There's a term I hate called swicy, that's sweet and spicy, and hot honey is the most widespread example of that. But we want something that's a little spicy, but not too much.
Not too much, yeah. How did you get involved in reporting on food?
So I didn't get into the colleges that I wanted to get into and had to reapply. And my mom basically said to me, well, you took French in high school and you've always liked cooking. Why don't you go to cooking school in France? So I did that. And when I was 18 years old, I packed my bags and I went to France and I went to the Cordon Bleu and, got the basics of cooking. And then I got involved in the daily newspaper at my university. And, one thing led to another and I became a food writer.
What is your favorite food?
Well, I lived in Thailand for 5 years, and
Okay.
so I am very devoted to good Thai food. I also love fried rice. I think if I wanted to end it all, I might kill myself by buying Chips Ahoy and dipping them in coffee. I think that is a delicious flavor combination. But I like pretty much all food as long as, it's prepared reasonably well. I'm
Yeah.
not a food snob. I like to try a bunch of different.
I never understood why they don't sell iced coffee on the beach. I've always said that you need iced coffee on the beach.
I
And
mean, I think now they probably do sell iced coffee on the beach. Did you know, Carl, that now something like 75% of coffee is drunk cold in the United States?
I did not know that, but I do have my Dunkin' that this morning that I was drinking cold. And I will tell a story. When I used to work for Wake Up with Al, I had to go when Al Roker had a show on the Weather Channel from 5 to 7, and I had to be in at 4 a.m. in the morning. And what I would do is I would go downstairs. The Dunkin' Donuts was open. I would go run downstairs, get a coffee, but I couldn't drink it fast. But an iced coffee I could, and that's how I started drinking iced coffee. So
Oh,
that is my story.
yeah, that you could pound it down that way. I'm actually drinking hot coffee, but I'm a throwback. And I also like iced coffee too, especially in the summer. But the young people drink cold coffee all year long.
Yeah,
And they also,
I'm one of the young people that does that.
well,
Or
do you
old people.
also put all sorts of nonsense in it? It looks like there's some dairy in your coffee, but
There is,
you know,
yeah, but just
people
skim milk.
okay. People love to add things to their coffee now and have it taste less like coffee.
Yeah.
One of the biggest trends that's been going on for a while is cold foam. Have you seen that where, you aerate dairy? Usually it's like
Oh,
sweetened skim milk and you put it on top of coffee. And all of the
yeah.
big coffee house chains do that now. And it's an option that's very, very popular.
So I would switch topics and ask you, are restaurants constantly forced to pivot for the latest trends? Or is there still a strong case for if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
I think restaurants sometimes feel like they do need to pivot, but the most successful restaurant chains don't. Like one of the fastest growing chains is the chicken tender chain Raising Cane's, and they have chicken tenders and they have one sauce and they have fries and toast, Texas toast. And that's it. And they're growing really fast and they're doing really well. Similarly, Texas Roadhouse just offers you a perfectly fine steak and this very, very fluffy bread and at a reasonable price. Pricing is very, very important these days, but they're doing fine. They don't need to do all of the bells and whistles. Some chains succeed very well with stuff like that. And fast food chains in particular like to jump on the latest thing. Everybody is introducing dirty sodas now. Do you know dirty sodas?
No, what's a dirty soda?
Dirty soda is a soda with anything added to it. Usually, though, it's something that's visually appealing, like dairy or coconut cream. So you put the white thing on top, and it creates this sort of ombre effect of changing colors, and it seeps into your drink. And then, of course, you post it on social media, and everything. Very
And
exciting.
everyone loves it. Do
Yeah.
you like that doesn't sound appealing to put milk in Coke.
I mean, we're old enough that you probably remember Laverne and Shirley, who drank milk and Laverne drank milk and Pepsi.
Did she? I don't remember that, but
Yeah.
I do
Oh, yeah.
remember Shamil Shamazel.
Right. Yeah, I mean, since I'm a food guy and always have been, even before it was
Yeah,
my job, I've always just remembered what people
yeah,
consume. And
yeah.
actually, Penny Marshall drank, who played Laverne DeFazio in Laverne and Shirley, also drank milk and Pepsi because when she was a kid, she wasn't allowed to have soda unless she finished her milk. And, they used the same glass. So there was a little bit of milk left over in her Pepsi.
Oh,
It's not something that appeals to me, and usually it's not just milk. It's usually something that's been sweetened, and sometimes they add different syrups and candies to it. So we're taking something that's already very sugary and arguably the worst part of our diet, and we're making it worse for us. But
yeah. No,
it,
it sounds that way.
it is a trend, though.
Yeah. With the 4th of July just around the corner, what do you think will be on most Americans' palates?
Well, are you familiar with Dubai chocolate?
Of course,
Yes.
it's like $3 million for the chocolate.
I mean, yes, but it's a flavor that combines chocolate and pistachio and shredded phyllo dough or charaif, which we know,
Yeah.
which adds a little crunchy element. And that's the sort of flash in the pan trend that should last for about 2 months. And we're going on more than a year of Dubai chocolate. And I think we'll be having it this summer. IHOP just launched their Dubai chocolate pancakes, which they offered at 3 locations last year. Ruby Tuesday just came out with a Dubai chocolate sundae. So that's going to be a trending
Wow,
thing for this summer.
that's fascinating.
And there's
Yeah,
and Shake Shack has been very successful with their Dubai chocolate shake, where they put sort of a magic shell on
yeah.
they line the cup with like a chocolate magic shell kind of thing, and then they put in the custard and the pistachio and the charaif, and they charge extra for it, and it also has done really well for them. So that's a big trending flavor. This summer, we're probably going to see a lot of tropical fruit, which usually happens in the summer. And a fruit that has been trending this year that I didn't expect is banana, especially added to the cold foam and put on top of coffee. Banana is
Yes.
the big thing.
I was in Israel a couple of years ago and they had banana coffee all the time. Like I got it there and I would drink my banana iced coffee. And I was like, this is amazing. Why does no one do it in the US?
And
So
now they are. I
now they
believe it
are.
actually originated in Korea, where a lot of beverage flavors come from, and boba, which is Taiwanese, and we're going to be seeing that in a lot of our drinks. And since it's the summer, people like their grilled meats, their barbecued themed items.
While we're talking about the 4th of July, many people will be having barbecues. How did this specific culture get so deeply ingrained in our history?
That's an interesting question. It varies from one region to the other in the United States, what exactly how barbecue is actually conceived, but it's a practice that we share with West Africa of slowly pit roasting or smoking items. And most people assume that barbecue was part of the slave trade, that the enslaved people came and had their foodways and customs, and part of that was a slow smoking, pit roasting kind of thing. And then it's just a fun thing to have over the summer, and it's a very sociable way for people to gather. And it was also a way when men were kind of not encouraged to be in the kitchen, that was considered the province of women, that men could get involved with cooking by getting in front of a manly grill and making their statement that way. And it's not national. I mean, now barbecue is nationally popular, but it certainly started in the Southeast and in Texas.
And then, like, France has coq au vin,
Mhm.
Sicily has pasta alla norma. Is there a signature dish that you would say is uniquely American?
The hamburger, without question. Hamburgers are and hot dogs to a certain extent, though. I mean, hamburgers have been far and away the most popular meal in the United States for probably a generation. And I was about to tell you what a burger is, but you know what a burger is. All Americans know what a burger is. And it's indulgent and hearty. And America, the United States, was as we were developing, beef became sort of a hallmark of success and excellence. And that's how it became our favorite meat. And, now chicken has surpassed beef as our favorite meat, but beef was for a very long time. And part of it is because we had enough land that we could raise a bunch of cattle on it. And so that then gradually evolved into the hamburger, named after a city in Germany, Hamburg. But
Yeah. We love our hamburgers. The
we do.
hamburgers are great food.
Yeah, and they're fun to eat, they're portable, which continues to be or it's increasingly an important part of American eating. You and I are both in New York City, but in the rest of the country, people live in their cars and go through drive-thrus. Some of the fastest growing chains are the drive-through coffee chains like Dutch Bros and Seven Brews and stuff like that.
And are they making burgers too, or just no? They're not there
No,
yet.
no, yeah, I was changing the subject a little.
Yeah.
Well, they
Okay.
they are offering more food, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, but all of the fast food chains obviously thrive on drive-through. And although it's interesting, burgers are like, you gotta eat 'em when they're fresh. Like, you
Correct.
if you let a fried chicken sandwich sit around for a couple of hours, it's still gonna be good. Have you ever tried to eat a 30-minute-old Big Mac?
No,
You would not enjoy it.
you would not enjoy it. I go to the diner, their burger is always good food to eat. It's a
Yeah,
go-to at a diner
right.
because you know
Yeah,
it's gonna
any
be good.
diner. Pretty much any bar. And here in New York, people love to ask, "What is the best burger?" And all I can say is, I like the burger in front of me most of the time, and I'm certainly not gonna cross a river to have a hamburger. If I'm meeting
No.
people or whatever and they wanna have a burger, fine, but I'm not it's not a destination food for me. It's
Yeah.
something that I can get pretty good almost anywhere I go.
Well, you go to watch the World Cup today, you go to watch a Knicks game, you get a burger at any of these places, and it's easy, and you know
Absolutely.
it's gonna be good.
And by the way, those 2 events have been wonderful for the restaurant business. I mean, I'm waiting to see what the numbers were, how much money New York bars made because the Knicks won the
Yeah.
championship. I mean, any bar I went to was packed, and the bartenders were making so much money, and I was so glad to see it. I mean, I don't really wanna hang out in a massively crowded bar, but it is fun when your team is winning.
When there's a game, but
And then the
yeah,
World Cup, Americans have just started to get psyched about the World Cup, but we're into it now.
yeah. Is there really a beer shortage?
No.
Okay, because I kept talking about the World Cup and there's a beer shortage. I keep seeing it on X, and I was just like, "Is it
Yeah, I
real?"
saw headlines about that, I think, in Boston.
Yeah.
And, just like every 5 or 6 years, somebody talks about the bacon apocalypse or something, that there's a bacon. Production of bacon can sometimes go down because, hogs get diseases and stuff, and I'm sure consumption of beer is way up. But breweries are like, they're smart. They know how to anticipate this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if there was any real beer shortage.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, that's
occasionally,
what I was thinking too. I was like, "There's really no beer shortage. It's America."
this is not an unprecedented event. The World Cup happens
Yeah.
every 4 years. We
Yeah.
have the Olympics and, like restaurants and bars and beer distributors know how to handle that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They might be sometimes there's a shortfall of something. We still haven't fully recovered at distribution channels that were all screwed up by COVID. There's still hiccups in how food and drinks are delivered. And so there might have been some supply chain things in Boston that made operators nervous, but don't worry, everybody. There's enough beer. You'll be okay.
There's global mashup concepts that we just talked about a little bit about before, but like Italian, Korean pastas or Indian, Mexican shawarma. Is this fusion concept the new normal
Oh,
or is
yeah. I
it a
mean,
passing trend?
we started to call it fusion, I think, in the 90s. It's actually a term that a fine dining chef in South Florida, Norman Van Aken, dreamed up and compared it to fusion jazz. That was
Yeah.
where this inspiration came from. But it's super normal. I mean, it's a term that chefs don't super like because, especially in the early days, a lot of culinary mashups, as it were, weren't that great. But in fact, fusion is the norm. There's no cuisine that operates in a vacuum. There's always cultural dialogue, as the anthropologists say, from one culture to another. I mean, when two grandmothers from different countries live next door to each other, they exchange recipes. And so this is something that has constantly been happening. And a great example is the very popular taco al pastor, which is a Mexican taco with pineapple on top that marinates the meat, and that is very clearly Lebanese shawarma. But,
Yeah.
Lebanese emigrated to Mexico, and they continued their cooking. So it's always kind of been the norm, and, I think it certainly will continue to be, and that is a really kinda easy way to create some news about your menu items in a restaurant without trying that hard or without alienating people, especially, for example, as we discussed gochujang before, just adding that to a fried chicken sandwich or a burger, you got a new thing. Or you could do a pizza burger. They've been around forever, but you put marinara sauce and mozzarella cheese on your burger. There you go.
There you go. And looking out into next year, what culinary surprises do you see coming in 2027?
It's a good question. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller portions because now 12% of the US population is on GLP-1s, Ozempic, Mounjaro, all these weight loss drugs that actually work and that really tamper your appetite. You still want to eat, but you can't eat that much. You get full really, really quickly. And so to cater to that audience, I think there will be, like single tacos being sold rather than three. We'll see an uptick in sliders and smaller portions in general. In terms of flavor, I would expect to see more kind of fruit forward things because they have kind of a health halo, as we say in the industry. Like if you add pineapple syrup to something, it does not make it better for you. It's adding sugar, but because it's fruit, people feel better about that. And so I think we'll continue to see more kind of fruit flavors. I would really love for our country to stop focusing so much on protein. Like almost all Americans get enough protein. It's not a problem. But on menus, especially at chain menus, they keep adding more high protein dishes because that's what consumers are looking for, even though they get enough.
How is the GLP-1 drug changing the restaurant industry? Because we just
Well,
mentioned it a little bit. So, and
yeah,
you talked about next year's.
and protein is part of that because people on GLP-1s, because they're eating so much less and ideally losing weight pretty quickly, they could actually lose muscle mass if they don't get enough protein. So that's a factor. The data is still kind of waffly about whether people on GLP-1s go out more or less. I mean, there's some indications that when they do go out, they spend more. They're not eating bigger portions, but they're buying more premium stuff. They also normally can't drink as much, and we've seen a huge upsurge in mocktails or spirit-free cocktails or whatever you want to call them that I don't think is really GLP-1 related, but that will accelerate as more and more people are on GLP-1s. And I mean, I think the mocktail is a wonderful trend because some people, I'm sure you have friends among them, really shouldn't drink at all. They're not good drinkers.
Yeah.
Other people have reasons for not drinking. They're underage, they're driving, they're pregnant, whatever, health reasons, or they just don't feel like drinking that much tonight. But they have shown a willingness to really fork out some cash for well-constructed mocktails. And that is a boon for restaurants who can now sell a legitimate drink that people who aren't drinking are willing to pay for, and they don't have the liability issues that they do when they're serving alcohol. So
How is the meal giants like HelloFresh and Home Chef impacting the restaurant industry?
it's not something we cover a whole lot, which
Okay.
makes me feel like not that much. I think there are different occasions for when you're gonna assemble your food in your own kitchen and when you're gonna go out or have your food delivered. The delivery has impacted restaurants much more than those meal services. People are ordering a lot more for delivery, and you and I remember when if you ordered pizza to be delivered, there was no delivery charge. It was free. That was,
Yeah.
part of the service, also Chinese food. Now people are willing to spend small fortunes ordering via DoorDash or Uber Eats to get their meals, even though they arrive an hour late, cold. I don't know why anyone would want to do that, but I also don't have small children at home. And, if you just want to feed your children and not make them put on shoes or go outside, I understand the desirability of delivery. And certainly it's a huge part of what many, many restaurants, most restaurants do now. And they lose a lot. They don't necessarily lose money with delivery, but they make a lot less money because they have to pay the delivery services and so
Yeah,
on. So,
the fees are expensive.
yes. Yeah. As
Yeah.
I said, I don't know why people do it, but
Yeah.
they do.
And with thousands of YouTube channels showing people how to clone restaurant menus at home, has the restaurant industry actually suffered, or does it fuel the hype and get people to go to the restaurants?
I think it probably is beneficial for restaurants because if you love cooking, you're going to cook. But if you're trying to replicate a beloved dish from a restaurant at home, you're probably going to realize it's hard. That it's time consuming. You need to clean up afterwards. You have to chop things. Like it's
There's
difficult to
probably a
cook.
stick of butter in there
Yes, exactly.
that you wouldn't put the stick of butter in because if you were looking at it at home, you were like, well, if I put this stick of butter in, not good for me.
Right. They will realize that a lot of this food is much more caloric than they thought if they get the proper recipes. Although back when chain restaurants started being required to include calorie information on their menus, what they found is that most consumers looked at the calorie count and said, "Wow, that's a lot." And then maybe they changed their habits for a couple of weeks and then they went back to ordering the same thing. Like even with the information that this food was more fattening than they realized. They loved it anyway, and so they
If you go to Cheesecake Factory and you're sitting there and you see the calories, you look at them and you're like, this is insane. A meal at Cheesecake Factory could be 2,500 calories.
easily. Yeah, and if you order one of those dirty sodas, it's 3,500 calories,
Yeah.
and people do it anyway, and Cheesecake Factory is doing pretty well.
Yes.
So, yeah, so the public health advocates back 20-ish years ago when this conversation was getting started thought that it was because consumers were undereducated that they were eating so much. But if you provide them with the information, they order it anyway. And part of it is because the food is delicious and eating is fun. And so it's difficult to rein yourself in.
It's like congestion pricing in New York. Everything's back to normal now. At the beginning, nobody would pay the $9 to drive downtown, but now everyone's paying the $9 to drive downtown.
Right. I remember somebody commenting about that, like, well, if you're going to charge me so much money, I guess I'll have to take mass transit. And my
Yeah.
thought was, yes, correct. That's why they introduced congestion pricing. And as
Yeah.
I understand it, I take the subway. I don't have a car in New York, but as I understand it, traffic is significantly better in Midtown Manhattan now.
Yeah.
Like people have, some people are driving less and others, probably most, are paying the $9.
And my favorite question to always ask is, what role is AI starting to play in how we discover food and the restaurant industry?
About AI and food discovery per se, except that, sort of the behind the scenes machine learning of search engines is targeting what you see better so that restaurants you like already and similar restaurants are going to be on your social media feeds more. But AI is definitely having an impact on how restaurants do business, although a number of them have scaled back on their expectations of what AI can do for them because people go to restaurants and they want to talk to humans and they don't want an automated voice at their drive-through. And so it's really impacting sort of the operations stuff that you don't necessarily see, better data analytics so restaurants understand what their customers are eating and how to manage inventory better and how to target their loyalty program members better. But it's more the kind of quiet stuff that AI does rather than, the
Right.
flashy videos and so on.
And then fast forward 20 years, how will we be consuming food and what entirely new cuisines might be on the map? And I know that's impossible to answer because you don't know what's coming in 20
Right, but
years,
that's
but
makes it fun, and if I get it wrong, I'm not gonna go to jail, like, I just do my best. There's going to be more West African flavors because that's kind of a region that we haven't really delved into that much, culinarily, except for stuff that's been ingrained in our culture from the slave trade, like barbecue and jambalaya and things like that. But there will be as particularly more Black chefs, gain prominence and kind of seek their own heritage and roots, they will be introducing those cuisines to the menu. I think we'll see even more Latin American flavors, more influence from Brazil, because it's sort of a global cultural powerhouse, but we don't really pay that much attention to Brazil here. I think that will change just because it's a big, interesting country with delicious food. And I think we'll probably continue to be even more portable, and people will find more ways to have different kinds of food that they can just grab and go. And even more delivery because people have really, they're used to having everything brought to their
yeah.
doorstep.
And then as we wrap up, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, one thing that I'd bring up is that it's very, very difficult to run restaurants right now because the price of everything is going up, and that doesn't only affect the profit margins of the restaurants, but the spending power of their customers who are definitely feeling the pinch everywhere. And they use their discretionary spending to eat in restaurants, and they have less discretionary spending, or they think they're going to have less discretionary spending, which also affects their habits. And so while restaurants are facing mounting costs and therefore raising prices, which their customers are noticing, it continues to be, or it's getting even more difficult to run restaurants. It's never been an easy business, but it's getting harder.
It's always been a hard business, I think,
Yes, always.
because, food can go bad. I just did a podcast a few weeks ago about hunger in America, and Starbucks lands, I think, in California, donates up to 2,000 pounds of food a day. I mean, that's insane when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, and we're now focusing more on food waste than we were 10 years ago, which is wonderful, but it's still a huge problem. And hunger is a huge problem.
Yeah.
We have both very serious hunger issues and serious obesity issues.
Yeah.
And that just shows that it's a question of distribution, not supply. And so I really think we need to double down on our efforts to make sure that people who are hungry get the food they need. And in the
Yes.
summers, it's especially difficult because a lot of kids who are reliant on free meals at school aren't getting it.
Yeah.
This is a, this is a seasonal problem every summer.
Bret Thorn, thank you so much for joining me today. The podcast is Menu Talk. You are the senior food and beverage editor for the nation's Restaurant News, the go-to website and magazine for the food industry. Thank you out there for listening. Let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comment section. And as always, until next time, be safe, everyone.